evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio. It's your old friend Virgil back here with Mark and Jeff for a very exciting episode where we dig into the incredible events that we have planned for April and rolling into May. Things that have been announced thus far. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
And today we have a great episode that's really kind of the first outing in this kind of trifecta, where we're going to give you guys a little taste of calendar stuff that we've been working on, some events that are coming up, as well as some cool aspects from the Patreon. So, Mark, what are you thinking? Where should we guide to?
Well, let's start off with talking about what is new at the theater this season, how we're going about our operations. Last season was, COVID lockdown world, and we had to do things quite differently than we had before. What are the plans this year in terms of the layout of the stand and people's experience coming to the theater?
I believe at the beginning of the season, we're going to do it the way we closed the season. I think we're going to have to do the ordering at the one bay door and then the pickup at the opposite bay door. But what I'm hoping is, and the folks are all familiar with that already, what I'm hoping is that maybe halfway through the season, maybe 3/4 at the latest, we can get back to letting people actually in the concession stand, and maybe masks at first, but I'm hoping we can get them in the stand before the season is over and basically back to normal. I really miss that, and I think everybody does. So I feel that if people just keep their masks on while they're walking back and forth, I don't see any problems with this year. Just get back to normal.
We did have the stand open semi-normal for our last night, I think, of last season. Which was a little bit of a shock to the system for the new kids who had never done it that way before on a busy night. But it worked really well. We had basically Becca as a bouncer at the door, letting only so many people in at a time. And it was cool and strange to be back in the old positions like we used to be. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, as you're saying, Jeff, as more and more people are vaccinated and more restrictions are lifted, we can open up the place semi-normally like we used to be, with just erring on the side of safety.
Right. As soon as we think we can do it safely, we're going to do it. Believe me.
Yeah, I think it's a strange situation we ran into last year, because even though we did have to shift pretty much all of our business to outdoors, it really did lend to the business in an odd way. Because, when our lines form in the concession stand, they bleed outside anyway. So it just kind of, started the line outdoors. But certainly we saw a big increase with the merchandise being outside, having its kind of own separate area for merch, and certainly with the photo ops. And we are working currently to have a very cool little structure there for our guests, our celebrities, our fans to take photos, and it'll be kind of an ever-revolving door of coolness there. So,
no, I was going to say, those are a couple of things that we did get out of the COVID crisis that were a positive. The merch worked great outdoors, like you said, and the photo ops worked great outdoors. That can continue, obviously.
But Mark, you know it. People do miss obviously the Mahoning Drive-In Theater's concession stand is more than a concession stand. And we started going this route of having it be not so much like a thrift store, but more like everything retro when you walk in. So we started with the VHS wall, which was a humongous hit from day one. In fact, I think a lot of people would love to know, we paid our employees when we first opened off of profits from donations off the VHS wall. So people love that aspect. And me coming from the video store life and owning a million videos, I just literally brought some of the collection over, and it just grew from there. And it's funny because it started with that. And then I went to Jeff the one day and said, what do you think about selling some records in the concession stand? And we went out and we got this awesome rack from our friends at Rat Tail Records that has an ever revolving door of awesome retro records. And I think it does lend to the experience when you can come in and peruse VHS, flip through records, then hit the concession line. It's like, that's another element that just sweeps people up.
Oh, a lot of people missed that this last season too. I had a lot of people seeing how far into the doorway they could crane their neck to see what was on the VHS shelf. And I've told people, I look at that shelf all the time because I'm obsessive like we all are. And I tell people, if there's anything specific you're looking for, I can look for it. And I have a pretty good idea of what we have. So we have had one local customer who was looking for Charles Bronson tapes one day. And I found all that we had and showed them to her, and she bought most of them. And she contacted us in the off season and she's looking for Clint Eastwood tapes. So last weekend when we were cleaning, I took a whole stack of Eastwood tapes and sent her a photo, and she's like, I'll take them. So
that's customer service to the next level, baby.
We can still make it work right now, but it is something people enjoy doing, is just looking over those stacks and flipping through the records. And I'm as guilty, if not more so than anybody, about that. And the vibe of the stand was always like a clubhouse anyway. It's just really with the growth we've experienced in terms of merch sales and what we're offering and the celebrity guests, you really can't pack everybody in there. Even in a COVID-free world, it's just not big enough. So expanding to the outdoors has made it so much better in the last year.
I agree.
Yeah, but I can't wait till we can get back to normal. I miss having all those people in there.
Yeah, it does. It adds that element to it.
Yes.
And, we have a ton of stuff on display in the stand as well. We have our original beautiful light boxes that we can put event posters in and things like that, and theme that to the weekend. That's something that kind of got lost last year, but again, all this stuff is going to eventually come back around. But just like it was last year, safety's key, and that's really what we want, is people to come and know that they have a safe escape and don't have to worry about the worries that they have to go to an indoor, reason they're not going to an indoor.
Right.
Attention, please. A $50 reward will be paid for information leading to the arrest and conviction of anyone caught stealing our speakers. If you accidentally pull a speaker loose, don't worry. Just turn it in. There is no charge, and we'll appreciate it.
So let's move on to talking about upcoming shows that we've announced so far. Making sure that we curb our tongues, because we know about a lot more than we've announced.
Yeah.
And some people know and some don't. And it's always like, oh yeah, the Denny Terrio tribute show. Oops, wasn't supposed to talk about that.
Yeah.
So we're actually looking at the Mahoning Drive-In, mahoningdit.com, which is where you can go. If you go to our events tab and down to current events, that's actually what we're using to talk to you right now. So we're only talking about things that are free and clear, have been announced as of the day we're recording this. So first up is our annual season opener. Every year we open with The Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
From the pen of author Roald Dahl to the motion picture screen comes a most unusual chocolate factory and the mysterious Candyman inside.
I'm so glad you could come. This is going to be such an exciting day.
Yeah, I got a really great story about this year. Like you said, we played it for the last 5 years, I think. We didn't do 2014, but I think 2015 is when we kicked it, so I guess 6 years. But I always put that request in very early. They don't let me request it like a year in advance, but normally after the season ends, Jeff will give me that little poke of like, make sure that you lock them in. So I requested this year, and no problem on Wizard of Oz, but got the word that it's the 50th anniversary of Willy Wonka. So of course Fathom Events is planning on doing an indoor, 50th anniversary release of it. And for a little inside dirt, whenever that happens, and, a movie is either celebrating an anniversary or the studio is planning a big re-release for it, it's on a blacklist that doesn't allow us to get the prints and certainly not license it. So up until, I guess it was maybe 2 months ago, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to play Willy Wonka.
Right.
And, I kept going back to the studio and, poking them and saying, any date yet? Because I knew that this Fathom event wasn't going to happen in April. There's no way, because, that would mean that the theaters would have to be up and rocking, and that's not the case yet. So we did get that good word, and a huge, huge success, because now we can celebrate the 50th anniversary on the lot. And it's just such an amazing event every single year. People have come to expect it. And Jeff can speak on why we chose to do this every year.
Well, the reason we chose to do it every year is because we have a traditional, historic drive-in theater. And we were trying to think of, okay, what kind of a tradition could we start for opening weekend every year? First thing that came to my mind was The Wizard of Oz, because it is the most popular American film ever made. Now, the most popular adult film ever made is probably Citizen Kane. That's what everybody says. And, that's, subjective, etc. But as far as popularity goes, all ages. Citizen Kane is pretty much for adults, but all ages, The Wizard of Oz, hands down, is probably the most popular American film ever made.
Iconic. Every age knows it.
Yes, every age knows it. The kids love the characters and the story, and the adults get the hidden humor, the sarcastic stuff underneath that only adults will get. And so it was perfect. And then, Virgil, do you remember? I don't know if I came up with Willy Wonka or if somebody else came up with that.
It may have been a joint kind of pitch, but talk about a perfect double feature of, kind of childhood escapism, and being able to put yourself in this wild world that you just want to be in. It's pretty incredible. But this was before my time. So Jeff actually was the one who brought this to my attention, but he said we should do this every single year because it's like when it played on television every year and it was an event, like you had to wait to watch it on the television.
That's right. It was on once a year. It used to be on NBC, and then after years, when I got a little bit older, it was on CBS. But it was once a year, and if you didn't make it home in time, you were out to eat or whatever. If you didn't get home by like 7 o'clock or 7:30, whenever it started, that was it. You didn't see it again for another year. And I remember I was in the car one time. We were coming back from where we had gone out to dinner. I'm like, Dad, come on, we got 10 minutes.
So, and you're so right. You put it out there like this is going to be something that people can look forward to as much as I used to look forward to seeing it every year on the TV with my family. And it's so true. And people come back, and we've seen kids now grow up every year, coming to this event.
Right. And there's just going to be more every year. And like I said, every year I love running it every year. And when that MGM lion comes on and just starts roaring, it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It never will get old. Like,
no.
I have a special place in my heart for Wizard of Oz because I was in the stage show in high school and played the Cowardly Lion. So I know this.
And that's perfect casting, by the way.
Right?
Because you're such a lighthearted, funny guy, and you can sing.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. It probably was my favorite role of all the acting I've done in my years, but it is. I know the script back and forth. I know the songs up and down. And now that I have a little munchkin in little Virgie, it's great because I can see it in his eyes whenever I play it. It captures a youth. And to see it up on the big screen now that he's at that perfect age, he's just it's gonna be great. I can't wait.
He's really gonna watch it this year.
Yeah.
And it's one of those movies that no matter how many times you've seen it, you've never really seen it until you've seen it on the big screen. Anything on the big screen for a first time, it really refreshes the whole thing. And on the screen we have, it's amazing.
It's monstrous. Yes.
And the print we get every year, I don't know if it's the same print, but we've been incredibly blessed with that print.
It is the same print. I recognize my splices. It is the same print.
Do you have any idea when that print dates from?
It's not, well, obviously it's not an original 39. It's not an original Technicolor. It's a reprint of a Technicolor. but I'm going to say 90s, maybe it's from 90s, but they're keeping it in good shape. Whoever else besides us is playing it. And I don't think there are too many in 35 millimeter that are even playing it anymore. So it's staying in relatively good shape. As long as we contribute to keeping it like that, we should be able to get it for years to come without it wearing out. Because my problem with the 35 millimeter is always, when the prints wear out, are they going to reprint them? And common sense keeps telling me no, they're not going to. So the more they're taken care of and the less people that play them, the longer they're going to last. And
we're getting that from Warner Brothers at this point?
Yes, Warner Brothers has the rights to The Wizard of Oz, because obviously MGM is no longer in business. But that is where, yes, Warner Brothers.
They're great supporters. Every single year they kind of know and expect us to to request it now. But we do have a little added fun, which probably makes sense to bring up, because there may be people who are like hearing this and saying, "Ooh, I want to go see, Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka on April 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, very good. Way to sneak that in there.
There you go. Tickets on sale now, mahoningdit.com. But I reached out to one of the bookers that we worked with last year, who had a connection for Paris Themin, who played Mike TV 50 years ago in Willy Wonka. And our idea was to bring him out and have him do an appearance, signings like traditionally we do with our guests. People can get photos, all that fun stuff. But something got in the way as far as the date. So we put our heads together and said, well, how about we have him do a video, like a nice introduction to the movie?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have Paris doing something special on screen. But if that wasn't cool enough, he signed 5 golden tickets that we are going to be doing a little contest with on opening weekend, where if you buy yourself a popcorn, be sure to eat it to the bottom, because there could be something special, maybe a golden ticket or something that signifies a golden ticket that you can bring up and trade in for an autographed Mike TV golden ticket. So that's the perfect kind of example of the Mahoning hook. As if Willy Wonka and Wizard of Oz wasn't cool enough.
Yeah. Just please do not eat the golden ticket. And you know what? Another amazing thing, Virgil. You sent me Mike TV's photo, the way he looks today, and my gosh, you can still see it. It still looks like him, if you know what I mean. It was amazing. Yeah,
without
amazing.
a doubt.
You can definitely look at
50 years ago.
I know, and you can look at his photo today and say, "Oh my gosh, that's him." It's great.
But he'll certainly be out. He's excited about eventually coming out in person and rocking and rolling on the Mahoning lot.
Great. Maybe next year. I hope so.
And our illustrious production team, our set designers, are working on some pretty amazing photo opportunities for our opening weekend. JT Mills, James, he's been rocking it for several years now, just doing amazing things. And he's now, he has an auxiliary. He has additional staff, field operatives helping him. And our friend of the family, Zeneca, is working on some amazing Wonka and Oz props to take photos with. And we've seen bits and pieces of these. I still don't know what the whole thing is going to look like, but she sent a few photos in progress, and we're just like, oh, wow.
That's great.
It's going to be crazy.
It is. He's our set designer, and he delegates to the people around him. They're talented people. They can build, they can paint, they can design right along with them. It's great.
That team is going to shine for sure opening weekend. And I said it, I've been trying to put it out there as much as possible. If you have a child, it's going to be incredible. So please come on out. It's going to be great.
Yeah, don't miss it.
So the following Tuesday, we have the beginning of a series we started last year, or Exhumed Films brings to our screen annually, and that's Tunnel Vision Tuesdays. These are Tuesday night single features with like an extended themed trailer reel. And if you know Exhumed Films out of Philadelphia, you know first of all, their shows are amazing, hardcore deep dish drive-in fare, excellently programmed and curated with trailer reels that'll knock your socks off. And the first one of those on April 6th is going to be the classic Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla from 1974.
Come on!
Hey kids, look what's coming to our theater. It's alive and it breathes fire.
This is the Godzilla I grew up knowing, the really fun, goofy, child-centric 70s Godzilla movies on Saturday afternoon TV on Creature Double Feature out of Boston. So the idea as a kid that I would ever see these on the big screen, let alone on film, let alone at a drive-in, was just unthinkable because the Godzilla ship had sailed by the time I was a kid. So I'm loving these shows. Any thoughts about the Big G?
I can say Harry is a monster. Like, we have kind of unleashed this Tuesday and made the decision to say, hey, if we're opening up a month early, we might as well, jump right in there with the Tuesdays. And boy, oh boy, talk about coming out and making a statement with a little 1-2 punch of Godzilla, Mechagodzilla. So The one thing I can say is naturally the Mahoning has fans from all over the country that travel into the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, and they're heartbroken when they see that they can't make it to an event. More than anything, these Tuesdays are designed for the locals, the people that can make it out and want to get home in time for work the next day or for school to get their kids up for school or whatever.
Exactly.
So we're really, really excited about Tuesdays, but I at least wanted to put that out there for anybody who may be upset that so many amazing things are playing during the week, which is a tough thing to be upset about.
I know the Tuesday shows are a little more manageable too, even if you have a bit of a drive. Early and late in the season when we're starting shows, 7 or 8 o'clock, most of these movies aren't 2 hours. The trailer reel is maybe 15 minutes tops. So you could still theoretically be getting home, by midnight, by the witching hour, I guess. It's when we get into the thick of the summer and things don't start until 9 that it does make it a later night for anybody who has to get up early the next day.
It does, but the beautiful part of that is it is only a single feature. So, even at 9 or 10 o'clock, you could be home by midnight if you're not too far away. So, I don't know. I'm glad we came to that decision because double features or even triples on a weekend is fine. But if you want to run a drive-in during the week, you almost need single features if you want to attract enough people. Simply because if a double during the week, you get home too late.
And interestingly enough, I'm doing some research for this Patreon thing, looking back into the history of what we've shown over the years. And in the very, very early years of the Mahoning, 1949, 50, single features were not uncommon. You'd get a single feature, you'd get a cartoon, maybe a short subject like a Stooges or something, maybe a newsreel. And the overall program would only be the length of less than a Marvel movie now, put it that way. So it's not unthinkable of a single feature at a drive-in. And these Tunnel Vision Tuesdays features are so cool. I mean, I'm 2.5 hours away and I go down and back for these because they're just so good.
Yep, I agree.
The thing I love about Tuesdays is you start seeing the same people coming on Tuesdays. And since traditionally it's not as big a crowd as the weekends, it's very kind of communal, maybe even more communal than the weekends. And the real treat to me, and maybe the best times that I had last season on the lot, were watching those extended trailer reels. Harry is really one of a kind when it comes to the industry in general, but his taste for cinema and the way that he can curate to a film and put together some of these trailers I've never seen in my life, and he's got them on 35 mil. So that's the biggest treat. I said I would pay my $8 just to see what he's going to play on that 20-minute trailer reel, because man, oh man, it's giving me goosebumps. And so many times sitting there under the screen last season, I was just like guffawed by, the greatness that is Tunnel Vision Tuesday,
And only 3 days after that, you haven't even recovered from the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla SmackDown. On April 9th and 10th, we have the return of Remake Double Take, This is an idea we had hatched up a while ago, and we did this last season with the original version of The Thing from the 50s and then the John Carpenter Thing. This year we have the original Blob from 1958, a Pennsylvania classic, and the really good remake from 1988 of The Blob.
Every one of you watching this screen, look out, because soon, very soon, the most horrifying monster menace ever conceived will be oozing into this theater.
The Blob. Terror has no shape.
That 88 remake, and that's really the thing with remake double take, is it can kind of work either way. If you know, you can kind of sit back and laugh at how dare they remake this movie, but it really works when the remake is incredible, like last season with The Thing, and definitely this year too. I mean, The Blob has its following, and really the reason this kind of rose to the top of our list with the remake double take choices was the Colonial is in our backyard.
The Colonial
and that's
Theater
the original filming location.
Yeah.
And it was a great opportunity to help support them. So what we did was reached out and said, I pretty much said, look, I don't want to step on your toes with this event. It's something we want to do, but in partnership with you to promote Blobfest and the fact that you guys are back and all that stuff. They are an indoor, obviously, and they were all about it. It was kind of another perfect match made in heaven where we could bring two kind of powerhouses in the area together and cross our fan bases.
And if anybody has never been to the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, it is a gorgeous, it's been renovated and remodeled, but the main house is still the same. And that is where scenes for the iconic scene of everybody running out of the theater and the Blob coming through the projection booth window was shot. And if you go there into that balcony, they have a little brass Blob replica. And I went there to see a John Carpenter triple feature a couple of years ago. And so many people have touched it. It's like the things where you rub something for good luck and it's like really super shiny. The little Blob coming out of the porthole replica they have in like brass or copper, it's like super shiny for everybody touching it. So I did rub the Blob for good luck.
One of the biggest events that we have in our area cinematically is Blobfest, and it was a great opportunity to kind of team up with them. So what we're doing this year is donating a portion of the profits at the gate to the Colonial. So when you guys come out and drop your buck or do a pre-sale online, right away you're supporting not just the Mahoning but the Colonial's fundraising efforts as well. And that's really what we're looking to do more and more. We've always been very conscious, but now that the industry is very challenged and we have an opportunity to help them, it's certainly something we want to do and continue to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't want to step, like you said, we don't want to step on anybody's feet. Right. We want to work with whoever we can work with.
Absolutely. And we do have a guest for that weekend. We're having Nick Benson come out, who is the special effects artist on the Blob remake, 88 remake. And for people who are fans of the Blob remake, you're probably a fan of it because of the mind-bending special effects. So Nick became a fan and a friend last year when we had him out for our Nightmare on Elm Street event with Exhumed Films. And he fell in love. I gave him a walk through the concession stand leading into the projection booth, and I could just tell like he's a brother from another mother and just has obviously this whole thing in his soul. So we're excited to have him back. He'll be there both days.
And I know Sandy was just telling us during an internal meeting today that she has hooked up with an artist who creates these little My Pet blobs that come in a little jar, and they're little blobs that you can take out and play with. So you can buy at our concession stand that weekend. The artist will be there selling them, your own mini blob.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we do have vendors out pretty regularly throughout the season. I actually just sent Sandy, who handles our vendors actually since last year, the updated vendor application. So hopefully we can get some vendors out to that blob event, because that would just make perfect sense.
And that is April 9th and 10th. we boogie on down the list here, and there will be gaps. We're going to be jumping over dates for things we haven't announced yet. Television Tuesday on April 13th is George Romero's The Crazies from 1973, which is another fun and sadly relevant, once again, outbreak film. People develop some kind of mania that drives everybody titularly crazy.
They started something they can't stop. The Crazies.
And that'll be... As with just about everything we're talking about 35 millimeter, we strive to do 35 millimeter for everything. Once in a while, it's something that doesn't exist on 35, or the studio and collectors can't turn up a 35 for us, so we'll show a digital version. But for the most part, just presume, unless we say otherwise, this is all on film.
It's good to touch on that. Last year, there were so many hurdles to jump over as far as being a 35 millimeter booker. If it wasn't hard enough before, there were so many delays, so many departments that were closed, so many issues as far as being able to get our prints to us. And last year, I think more than ever, we did have to kind of bite the bullet and do a digital presentation here and there. But I can say with certainty, things are starting to get back to normal. The access is getting back to normal. So hopefully, we won't have to do that as often as we had to last year. And really, we're talking about maybe five flicks out of 100 last year. So, but to be the all 35 millimeter drive, and Jeff knows it, whenever somebody hears that it's going to be digital, it's a heartbreaker. But sometimes the programming warrants doing it digital and making the show happen.
And there were nights, there were times last season and in previous seasons where the film just didn't show up, and somebody had to run out and get a Blu-ray just in case the film didn't show up. And some nights it did, and some nights it didn't.
No, back when 35 millimeter was in every theater, there was an outfit called Highway Film Transfer. They took care of all the 35 millimeter shipments throughout at least this part of the country. I think they were nationwide, but at least on the East Coast, they took care of all the film shipping. And as 35 millimeter started to dwindle, when theaters started going digital, Highway Film Transfer went out of business. And after that, it was up to the individual studios to get those prints to the theaters that were still using them. And that's the way it is now. They have to ship the prints to us. Then we have to ship them back right after we're done with them. Where back when it was 35 millimeter all over, they were there, didn't have to worry, always came, and like Virgil said, now it's a little more tricky.
April 16th and 17th, we have Monster Squad and Wolfman's Gut Nards. Why is that special? That's because the star of the Monster Squad himself, Andre Gower, will be live with us doing a Q&A, introducing the films. And Wolfman's Gut Nards is a film he made about the Monster Squad phenomenon.
The leader of the squad is going to be with us. And I said it in a personal post on my own page. I wanted to be Andre Gower most of my childhood, because that is the ultimate role. And for me, really is the ultimate childhood movie. It was the gateway for me into darker material. I always say that and Ninja Turtles, believe it or not. Turtles 1 is incredibly dark, but this actually had monsters in it. And boy, oh boy, it's to this day one of my favorite movies. It's inspired things that I've written, things that I've shot. So very excited to have Andre as part of the Mahoning family. And he couldn't be cooler. We're actually hoping to get him to sit down and do an episode with us to promote in depth that show. But talk about a double. And that's a great kind of stroke of programming is sometimes movies just line up perfectly and you say, well, this is the perfect double feature for this movie. With Monster Squad, we actually did play it before in maybe the perfect double feature and event name, Double Decker Weekend. Because both films we played that weekend were directed by Mr. Decker himself. So, but with this situation, we have a documentary that just came out. A lot of people don't have access to it unless they're paying a premium. So to have a movie play and then have a documentary play about the fandom of that movie, that's just going to be meta.
Yeah.
Here's a new taste treat. The corn dog. Plump, juicy wieners are dipped in a thick, golden Southern-style corn batter that seals in all their freshness and flavor. If you like hot dogs, you'll love corn dogs. Everybody does. Try a corn dog with your favorite beverage. At the refreshment corner now. Corn dogs.
Up next on April 20th, we have another Tunnel Vision Tuesday, and this harkens back to something, Virgil, you were saying earlier. Boy, you'd just like to watch trailers. Okay, this is all trailers. This is trailer trauma at the drive-in. Yeah. So the trailer reels that Exhumed put together are always amazing. Harry told us, he's just got in a huge load of trailers that he hasn't viewed yet. And I think a lot of them will work their way into this event. It'll be trailers that Exhumed Films has never screened for anybody. Through Exhumed Films, Harry Guerrero has put together sort of an offshoot of Exhumed Films is Garage House Pictures, the Blu-ray releasing company. They've released a lot of never before on home video movies that Harry has in his collection. And he's released a series of these Blu-rays that are like essential if you're a fan of trailers or old movies or exploitation. It's a series of Blu-rays called Trailer Trauma. So I long have thought, man, we should just do a trailer show at the drive-in. And it's happening. And it's good. I guarantee it'll be amazing. This is probably going to be about 2 hours worth of just off-the-wall, bizarre trailers for movies you've never seen, probably trailers you've never seen. And this might be the Tunnel Vision Tuesday I'm actually most excited about myself.
It's definitely going to be a first, I think, because I don't know of any place that has ever brought an entire evening worth of just trailers and rare trailers. I think this is a first.
It's going to be so exciting. I mean, like I said, that's my favorite aspect of Tuesdays, regardless of the mind-bending programming. But it's funny. I don't know if you remember this, Jeff, but in the very early years, Harry was right there along with us and was such a champion with helping us out with Prince in those early years. But we were really struggling, and sometimes it really didn't. We were wondering if it made sense to, go with something that's public domain so we can save a little bit of overhead. We're talking about 2015. But right, I remember him bringing up this idea of, if we show nothing but trailers, talk about an easy night. I got tons of trailers. So it's funny that literally 5 or 6 years later, his dream's coming true. And in pure Harry fashion, he's going to knock this out the park.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. I know he's going to. Like I said, I doubt that that's been done really anywhere like this, especially at drive-ins.
And we have an amount of trailers ourselves in the booth at the Mahoning that reach back a few decades. And we always try to do themed trailers to every show that we do. And then I personally have a pretty good collection that I supplement that with. But you're right. We've never done an all trailer night. And I think it's going to be amazing. Shortest attention span theater.
Yeah.
To the extreme. And I think, like with the trailer from a Blu-rays that most people I know have done, you're going to be sitting there with a pen and paper or with the Notes app on your phone, writing down titles of movies you want to check out after this weekend or this night.
Absolutely.
3 days after that, after your mind has been melted by all those trailers, Exhumed comes back with It Came from the 80s. This is going to be 2 nights of triple features, April 23rd and 24th. On April 23rd, we have the classic Lovecraft adaptation From Beyond. After that, we have The Keep, which is a very hard movie to see. Since it came out in 83, it has, I think it was out on home video. It was on VHS and Laserdisc, and I think that's it. So it's been really hard to see ever since then. So that's kind of a treat to be able to see that in the big screen. And then April 23rd, Friday night, is rounded out by the super sleazy Amityville 2, The Possession, which is a prequel to the first Amityville horror that's extremely loosely based on actual events that happened in the house, like the first movie. Saturday, April 24th is the classic from 1988, Child's Play, the one that started it all. Then Basket Case. That's going to be a digital presentation. The director, Frank Henenlotter, really prefers a crisp, pristine digital presentation to, the aged like fine wine or vinegar prints that sometimes are out there. So that is the one film that weekend that will be not on film. And then Saturday night, 24th, is rounded out by the classic Giant Rat in the Walls movie of unknown origin, starring RoboCop's Peter Weller, directed by George Cosmatos, who also did Tombstone and Cobra, two films I'd like to see on our screen someday. And his son has gone on to be a pretty renowned filmmaker with Mandy and what was the other one? Beyond the Black Rainbow. So that's going to be a fun, out there 80s horror weekend.
You're telling me, yes.
That's a great example of the exhumed touch, where any one of those films would be a cannot miss event, but the fact that you get 3 each night and it only gets better and better, that's what I love. You know, I know that the longer nights are harder when we get into the heart of the summer, but in April it should be a really fun time.
And that's a lot of what why these exhumed shows are so great, is that the exhumed guys, they're like us, you know, they're putting together shows that they would like to see, or trying to recreate the experience of movie going from an era they weren't able to experience. So I've always appreciated what they do, whether it's on or off our lot. And a lot of people are pretty excited about this lineup.
Absolutely.
Celluloid heroes for sure. So I can say, to touch on the digital thing, so that does happen on occasion where a director or a filmmaker will have kind of a mandate over the studio where they don't allow 35 millimeter prints of certain titles to be shown. To me, it seems kind of crazy, but at the same time, if there are prints out there that are less than perfect and people are still trying to run them, and, you know, I can see where a director might prefer to have it be the best crisp presentation over the most authentic and lived in presentation, but it rarely happens. It actually happened last year. We decided to play, because we were running into so many studio issues and print issues. Infamously, The Exorcist is not able to be shown on 35 millimeter. So we thought this is a great opportunity for us to actually be able to put it up on the Mahoning screen, which I don't know if it's the right word to say, but it was like a religious experience to see that madness up on the screen. And, you know, sometimes, you know, as much as we are diehard 35 millimeter, that's a good example of, you know, we had a great experience that night, even though it was digital.
Yeah, right. William Friedkin is adamant about his films only being shown digitally because, and I've heard him talk about this in interviews, he really doesn't like the idea of faded prints or prints with scenes or splices or anything like that, or scratches. He wants it to be exactly the way he thinks it should be, and that's digital at this point.
I can see it from that side too. The event drives what we have to do. Like Virgil said, we always strive for 35 millimeter, but if the event is important enough and we think it's going to match well with the other prints that are going along with it, we'll put a digital in there if we have to, just to maintain the seamlessness of the event. And as long as we tell people ahead of time, I always say, as long as you let them know ahead of time, hey, this film is going to be digital because we could not get it, nobody has a problem with it. Nobody has a problem. They're great people. Nobody has a problem with it.
That's definitely been our motto from the beginning, is trying to make sure that we are very upfront and honest with our audience about everything.
Yes.
But for sure about the presentation and the hurdles that we run into and things like that. I think that is very heartwarming for a fan to know that, you know, this is something that we are really trying and take pride in, you know?
Yes. And it gives an insight into how the theater works. Then they understand better what we do and what we're up against. And so when a glitch does happen, they're going to sit there and say, okay, they're going to explain it to us now, and we'll know why this happened. So it works perfectly.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of the idea with this podcast, is to give people an insight into how theaters work. You know, so much of the public doesn't understand exactly why things are the way they are, or what it takes to put a show on. And we want to sort of pull the curtain back as much as possible on this.
Absolutely. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
So on Sunday, April 25th, we are beginning a journey that I have wanted us to take for a really long time, and that is spaghetti Sundays. We are going to be showing classic spaghetti westerns on film on the big screen on Sunday nights. And for whatever reason, I always equate Sundays with westerns, because when I was a kid watching these movies on Boston TV, it was always on Sunday afternoons. So I'm always in a western mode. And even now at home, we always say Sundays are for westerns. We watch Sundays on westerns on Sunday nights. So we're kicking that off with a fistful of dollars, because that's where it all began.
The man with no name wears a poncho over the fastest long gun you'll ever see. He's going to trigger a whole new style in adventure. A Fistful of Dollars is the first motion picture of its kind. It won't be the last. A Fistful of Dollars from United Artists, Technicolor.
Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone, The Man with No Name, based on Yojimbo, the Akira Kurosawa movie. And it is an uber classic. It set the pattern for everything that followed. We're saying that if this is successful, if the Spaghetti Sundays series is successful, you will see more Spaghetti Sundays. And believe me, I want to see more Spaghetti Sundays. So people, please come out to these. Folks are really excited about this. These are great widescreen movies. It's wonderful whenever we can get a film that fills that CinemaScope screen we have. And Squinty Clint will be taking names and quick drawing.
In full effect.
Wear your ponchos.
Yeah,
cut a hole in the rug and come on out.
I couldn't be more excited about this booking. Like, this is, like you said, Mark, kind of a dream come true booking. The idea of seeing this print on 35 millimeter, and hopefully more and more Westerns on 35 millimeter, is kind of a childhood dream, because my first memories of movies were sitting on my grandfather's lap, and he was all Westerns all day, like 24/7. That's it. And man, it's something that is, I think, kind of an essential piece of not just American filmmaking, but the filmmaking genre in general, and one that, as we all know, it's kind of been lost. Every now and then they'll drop kind of a throwback Western to call back on all the popular Westerns. But in the heyday of the Western, when you got things like this that were not only experimental, but also incredibly touching, and more than anything that I can say about Leone, it's beautiful, and a lot of the Italian directors of the spaghetti Westerns, it's just that beautiful kind of landscape. And the thing I always loved about Leone as a filmmaker is he has these amazing juxtapositions of wide open, beautiful, like painting like landscapes, and then you cut to the next scene, which is as close as you can be on a person's face without literally touching them with the front of the camera lens. And it's just, it's artistry at its finest. And I know that it's going to be like a cinematic wave washing over me and the audience, obviously. But in truly a selfish way, this is something that we're testing out, knowing that it's going to be pleasing for everybody that's on the lot, on the crew.
Yeah.
So hopefully, just like Tuesdays, hopefully people come out and support it, and they can prove that Westerns can do well at the Mahoning.
And I think that if these do well, people have asked, are you going to show John Ford Westerns and John Wayne Westerns and more modern Westerns? And I think, if I speak for everybody here, if this does well, that would certainly bode well for more of those, and maybe even for a Western weekend. Some folks can't do Sundays. Maybe we could put together some, uber classic Westerns for a Friday, Saturday show if people show us that they want that sort of thing.
I kind of think they will. There's nothing like a good old American classic Western, especially if you're talking John Wayne or maybe Kirk Douglas or something like that. Yeah, that would be fantastic. And Virgil, I'm glad you mentioned about the landscape shots, because I have a hard time picturing Clint Eastwood as touching, if you know what I mean. So bring your cheap Italian cigarettes too. Don't forget them.
And we may be serving up some appropriate fare on those nights, culinarily speaking. And
yes.
I will say something cool that's developed through other avenues. We've hooked up with the amazing Kino Lorber home video to be offering some spaghetti western Blu-rays for sale in our snack bar at these shows. So if you haven't purchased these movies on Blu-ray yet, I think we're going to be able to have on offer most of the Leone films, some Lee Van Cleef, maybe even a 4K disc here and there. So be sure to stop at the merch stand when you come out, because we're going to have some cool stuff there.
Right, and we'll have to talk to the girls, but I really hope we can serve spaghetti on those nights. I really
do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good segue, Mark. So I got to say, beyond obviously the incredible titles that we have and what people have come to expect at the merch tent and with the photo ops and all that crazy stuff, Mark has gone above and beyond with partnering up with really incredible like-minded companies to help us out with our raffle and beyond. And I think that that's really going to be exciting for the fan that comes out. The raffle has taken on a life of its own. The idea that, you can drop a couple bucks and now walk away with a couple $100 worth of prizes from all over the map it's really exciting. So hats off to Mark, and really, really looking forward to having more people come on board. That's kind of a plus of doing this podcast is, I know a lot of ears are going to be hearing this and reach out. And even when you said, it would be stupid of me not to say it, but our trailer collection, although pales in comparison in a big way to Exhum's, it's grown every single year because inevitably somebody hears us talking about the fact that we run retro trailers on the radio, or they see the retro trailers when they're out and they say, I have this box of trailers when I used to run a theater or whatever. Oh, it's my favorite. And I'm sure Jeff agrees. It's like people come and are so beautifully gifting everything to us. So it's great. That's hopefully that continues.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're going to keep getting donations. I mean, we get donations of trailers, we get donations of records, we get donations of VHS tapes, we get donations of DVDs. And man, if we can put it out there to the people and they can buy and pick up something nice for just a couple of bucks, it makes us happy no end. It thrills us to death.
We're such a media conduit. Like even friends that I have on the lot will be trading things off with each other, and the Mahoning is where they come to do that. It's like not unauthorized. It's like an unofficial swap meet a lot of weekends where you see, here's this bag of things I don't want anymore. Here you go. It's
exactly.
Nice to see.
Sometimes you take a look in those boxes and you're like, yeah, we don't want it either. But
sometimes it is like that. They're like, here, can you throw this away for me?
Well, that's okay. We're going to start a landfill. So we're all right. Yeah.
I will happily be the conduit between you and the dumpster. That's okay.
Okay.
So 2 days after Spaghetti Sunday, we have Tunnel Vision Tuesday once again with Escape from New York, which is a film we run a couple of times, I think. Ooh. We ran it during, did we run that during, or I should say, Exhumed Avco Embassy weekend? And I know it played during the first John Carpenter weekend.
If he climbs over the wall, they'll blow him off. If he tries to fly over the river, they'll shoot him down. If he comes back alone, they'll explode his brain. New York, 1997. One man has 24 hours to break in and break out before it's too late for escape. John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Rated R.
Yeah, we've had it a couple of times, and it's always great to get that one back because it's one of our classics that every couple of years it's going to come around one way or another.
And funny enough, in the if you've ever heard or never heard the audio commentary for that with Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, it's amazing. And Russell talks about basing his character on Clint Eastwood, basically. And when you think about that and you watch it again, it's like he's totally doing Clint. So to have those two movies close together is kind of cool too.
That's what I was gonna say. It's great that it's kind of following our first Spaghetti Sunday because it's very much that beautiful crossover in that performance. But it will always crush. That is again one of those titles. If you play Escape from New York, people are coming. But a great story about Escape from New York. The first time we played it, I think it was that Avco Embassy weekend, which probably was 2016. But the infamous scene of the helicopter takeoff, we have an airport right behind us, a very small airport, private, and the perfect timing as the helicopter took off in the movie, without fail, the helicopter comes up and crosses over the whole entire audience and lot. And it was just one of those things you could never plan on. You could never,
It was fantastic. I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time. It was perfect.
It's that and Lightning in the Sky when we ran Bride of Frankenstein. Those were some of the two moments when the frame of the screen and reality became very blurry for a moment, and it was magical for anybody who was there.
It's a shame because I think it was that first John Carpenter weekend that we did, the actual full weekend. We got insane fog during They Live, which
that was
been
Universal
perfect
weekend.
If that rolled in during the fog. But that was one of the most fun times that we had on the lot, because we were watching literally this beam of light shooting through this fog and colors kind of mixing around, and we're listening, and we all know the movie, so we're kind of chatting about it. But it was incredible. It's sometimes things like that really do add to the experience more than ruin it.
Yes.
On May 2nd, we have Pink Floyd's The Wall. This is a Sunday night show. This is a film we've never run at the drive-in before. Last year we were doing Savage Sundays. We did a lot of rock and roll related movies, and this is sort of a spiritual, I think, continuation of that idea. This is a movie I've never seen, believe it or not. I made it through high school. That's
insane.
I made it through high school not caring about Pink Floyd, so I always heard about it, but I never watched it. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing this finally.
That's great.
So I could do a standalone episode on this movie alone and what Pink Floyd means to me in my life. This is, again, another dream booking. And I should certainly say that this is coming, the print is coming from the Exhumed Vault. So we knew that we did have access to the print, and it's something that we were hoping to do. But the idea, again, of these Sunday night single features, make it a little bit easier for folks to wind into the work week or wind down the weekend with a single feature. So I think it's going to be a slam dunk. And honestly, all the events that we've done that have been very music themed and rock and roll themed do pretty well.
Yes. Do you remember Woodstock?
I was just going to say Woodstock weekend, it felt like you were at a concert. Woodstock weekend was fantastic. And I'd love to see us in the future do another double feature of concert movies and get that vibe going again, because it was like people were at a show. They were there. Some people were there for the whole weekend, even though it was the same movie two nights in a row. Single feature because it was so damn long. It was the director's cut, so it was like 3 hours plus. And I talked to a guy at the snack bar that night who came up to me and he said he had been to every Woodstock. He had been to the original. He had been to the two or so in the 90s, 2000s, and he had planned on going to the 50th anniversary, which was that weekend. And the concert got canceled. So he came to spend the weekend with us instead, which was kind of cool.
Was very cool. Yep.
Yeah, I'll always have a soft spot for that weekend. I sat in the field, dead center of the screen with my father, just the two of us, and watched it. And, if there's something that connects me in a big way with my upbringing and my parents, it beyond movies, it's music, that rite of passage. I first got really into music when my father gave me his leftover record collection, which really got me into my love of vinyl records and the deep dive and appreciation for music, which then led into me singing and performing and all that stuff. So I love weekends that cross those two loves together. And, Jeff knows it. Music and film is our lives. So whenever it comes together, people should not be surprised at the Mahoning.
Nope, that's the way it is.
So 2 nights later, we have another Tunnel Vision Tuesday with Clive Barker's Nightbreed on May 4th.
Boone and Laurie. They were warned to stay away.
Ain't nothing but dead folk.
But didn't listen. Now, they're no longer lovers. For she's become the hunted, and he's become one of the night breed.
There are multiple cuts of this movie. I believe we're just showing, or Exhumed is showing the theatrical cut. But this is a story of strange mutants in an underground world, and the villain is played by David Cronenberg. So it's kind of worth the price of admission just for that, to see this famous director act, who hasn't done that too often. And the character he plays is really strange and creepy. So this is one that's got a pretty strong cult following. So people are talking about this one too. May 7th and 8th, we have the return of Vamparty. I've actually never been to a Vamparty. I'm always at another event the weekend that we do this, but I'm not missing anything for this Vamparty because this is the Hammer Horror Edition. If you're a fan or not, Hammer Horror, the House of Hammer was a British film studio, Hammer, in the, I think they started in the 50s into the late 70s, but they hit their stride when they made Horror of Dracula in 1958, which is what we're starting Friday night with on May 7th.
This is the story of Dracula, a creature who destroys all whom he touches.
That's Christopher Lee's first outing as Dracula. I think it might be the first color Dracula film. And it's a film that brought a lot of blood red colors, literally blood red, blood, and a little bit of salaciousness to Dracula, to the vampire lore. And we're following that up on that night on Friday with Brides of Dracula, which is the direct sequel from 2 years later. Doesn't have Christopher Lee in it, but it's got just a totally badass Peter Cushing, like a really surprisingly athletic Peter Cushing.
Hell yeah.
Really cool and very feral vampire brides. It's really strong. People might discount it because it doesn't have Christopher Lee, but it's a movie that people really love who know the Hammer movies. It's totally solid. I ran this at an indoor show that I had done years ago when I was doing retro horror 35 millimeter stuff in my hometown. And the print we had then was gorgeous. So I can assume that this is going to look just as nice. And two stone cold 60s British horror classics. Saturday night on May 8th, we have The Vampire Lovers from 1970, starring Ingrid Pitt.
Hark, a film of tender love and the screams of vampire death. Now there's a powerful motion picture that rips at your emotions. The Vampire Lovers. It brings you beautiful love and vampire evil, and it'll drive your mind through 1,000 terror-filled moments. You'll hear whispers of warm desire become shrieks of chilling death. You'll taste the deadly passion of the vampire lovers and become a slave of the damned. You'll discover the sweet embrace and the deadly kiss of blood nymphs who refuse to die. The Vampire Lovers. It's in color, and it had to be rated R. Under 17 must be accompanied by a parent or adult guardian. Don't miss The Vampire Lovers.
Following that up with Vampire Circus from 1972. Saturday night is for lovers. Saturday night's a little more R-rated.
That's right, baby.
Saturday night's a lot more skin. Saturday night is exploring the sexuality of vampires much more than Friday night. But just solid movies. Hammer movies are so classy. Even when they're filled with blood and nudity, the sets, the costumes, the level of acting in them, the scores. Hammer is a step up.
Yes, and the color is fantastic.
So we've had people asking us about Hammer movies for a long time. We've never done any, and this is sort of the dipping the toe into the water. Hammer put out a lot of films. They were released by various studios, which makes them sometimes a little trickier to find certain prints of some, or for a long time they were harder to get on video because it wasn't like one company could just put them out. But lately you're seeing a lot of them on Blu-ray, and they're just gorgeous and so much fun. And we just can't wait. We have a lot of people, again, I say this about everything, but it's true. I hear about people say a lot of people are really excited to come out for this.
Since we started doing Vamparty, people have been asking, like you said, when is the Hammer coming down, baby? You know, we want to see that Hammer horror, because it's a different type of horror. It's not that slasher in your face blood. It's very, like you said, you could throw a pinky up and drink tea while you're watching this puppy, you know? The thing that hooked me for sure is the sexuality of all those films. Very, very open and in your face. And I may have become a man watching those Hammer films.
Well, That's a possibility, but just the fact that it's also a real horror film. It's not just gore and blood and running drill bits through people's heads. I mean, it's a really good story, real good horror film.
Like with everything else we've been saying, like with the spaghetti westerns, if this does well, you can bet there's going to be a lot more Hammer coming to the Mahoning Drive-In.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Without a doubt. And definitely worth mentioning, that whole lineup's on 35 millimeter. And we are getting Vampire Circus from Exhum's library. So thank you to Harry for that. This is going to be incredible. You know, we've done what I like to say some bubblegum titles for Vam Party. Then we started getting a little bit weirder as we dug deeper later into the programs, but this is going to be something special for sure.
And somebody had asked us online if this is the uncut version of Horror of Dracula. I believe this is going to be the US release version of Horror of Dracula. There's a slightly longer version that has come out on video in other parts of the world that has a few extra seconds here and there. I think they were sourced from a Japanese print, but we're showing it as you would have seen it at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in 1958.
There you go. That's the idea. There you are.
It's coming from the studio, so chances are that is, yeah.
And that's Warner Brothers.
Yeah, the theatrical cut.
Correct.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The management of this drive-in theater is happy to announce you can enjoy your favorite form of movie entertainment regardless of rain. No longer will it be necessary to let rain spoil your fun. Now you can keep your windshield clear and dry with a drizzle guard. Simply attach it to your windshield, and in a jiffy you're enjoying the movie without constantly running your windshield wipers. A drizzle guard will save you gasoline and wear and tear on your batteries. After the show is over, all you do is take off your drizzle guard, roll it up, and it's ready to be used again, just like an umbrella. So next time it rains, don't sizzle in a drizzle. Get yourself a drizzle guard and enjoy the show. Drizzle guards are on sale now at the concession center.
Hi, this is Adrienne Barbeau, and you're listening to Mahoning Drive-In Radio. Enjoy.
So we have another show that's not on our website because it's been officially announced, but we haven't put up the details yet because they're literally still being worked on. But if we just want to say a little bit about that show, everybody's talking about, as Nilsson once sang, we've got Joe Bob Briggs coming out. We've got Joe Bob coming to the drive-in. The Joe Bob Briggs Jamboree. That is actually happening July 16, 17, and 18. It's a 3-night event on our turf. We'd wanted Joe Bob to come out and we'll talk more about this in other podcasts, perhaps with the man himself, but we'd wanted Joe Bob to come out for years and it just never quite worked out. And perhaps in another podcast, I'll tell you the story of how I fell backwards into making this happen, apparently. But yeah, we've got Joe Bob, we've got Darcy, we've got the entire cast of Shudder's The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs coming out to do a live show on our lot, to have an independent film festival one night, to have a family night, family-friendly films and a live haunt on the lot one night. And as I said, a live version of his show, which may wind up getting recorded and aired on Shudder. Virgil, you've been the guy who's most directly been talking with the JB team on this. Do you have anything you want to let folks know that we can say at this moment?
So I can say this is going to be, for a Joe Bob fan, the most exciting and exclusive up close and personal experience you could ever have. We have a ton of stuff planned for you guys, literally an all-day event on Saturday and Sunday. And for Friday, we're getting so excited about this thing because this really is geared toward the independent filmmaker, the filmmaker that created and jumped those hurdles outside of the studio support system, which, as we know, so many of the films that we love and show at the Mahoning got their start that way. So we're hoping that Friday really can grow into something special. We have an award ceremony tied in. We're doing a Lifetime Achievement Award. Obviously, Joe, Bob, and Darcy will be presenting. But for these VIP packages that we are working on, it's once in a lifetime. You know, we're talking about photo ops with the guests, with the set. And again, to have the opportunity to see your favorite show being filmed live in front of you, and then possibly to have that show up on your favorite show, it's going to be mind-bending. And I don't want to jump the gun too much as far as over speaking, but I can say that for sure. If you're a Joe Bob fan, this is something you're not going to want to miss. And we're already looking at doing it again next year. So hopefully it's our biggest annual to date, and we can knock this one out the park in a big, bad way.
It's going to be a very big event, and you basically can say it's going to be everything and the kitchen sink.
Some of the stuff JB's tossing out there, it's crazy. You know, he really does want to have kind of this circus appeal where there's stuff going on all over the lot and keeping people entertained beyond obviously the movies and the opportunity to meet Joe Bob and Darcy and all that. And some of the stuff is it tickles me. So you know what, I'm just gonna say it. Probably the most exciting thing for me, we're working on doing Darcy's Toon Tent, where Darcy will be hosting cartoons with the VIP package, we believe, where fans can literally sit and watch cartoons and eat cereal with Darcy in the morning. So, like, what a dream. You know, like, what world?
How great
it's going to be nuts.
I mean, yes.
So we'll get back to that. We will have, because literally we are still, as we record this, we're still ironing out the details. We're still ironing out the pricing and when the tickets are going to go on sale and all that. But we're going to let everybody know far enough in advance that Joe Bob is all about the fans. It's not an act. He is, since day one talking to him, it's all been about how can we do the best thing we can for the people who enjoy what I do? How can we accommodate them, safely accommodate the most people? How can we make sure everybody knows about this? Because sometimes we'll hear, even on our own shows, people will not find out until after a show that it's sold out or, all this other stuff. And he's like, I want people to know the date. They're going on sale well in advance, so people know when they can get the chance to buy the tickets. So we're really, really excited about this, and we'll give more details as they develop.
I was going to say, we did just send off a little press piece that we did, Mark and myself. And one of the questions in there was, what is the significance of Joe Bob coming to the Mahoning lot? And for those people that might not know what Joe Bob signifies, this is a guy whose catchphrase and tagline is, "The drive-in will never die." And to have him come to the Mahoning, which really has made its name on kind of proving what you can do in the digital age and in the new era, and kind of proving that there can be this kind of second breath for the drive-in culture. It means everything to us. It's kind of bringing our two like-minded, again, powerhouses together. So it's an honor, and I really kind of look at it as a passing of the torch. We consider ourselves mouthpieces for 35 millimeter and the drive-in culture. And Joe Bob has been that for literally my whole entire life.
Oh, I've been a fan since the 80s, since I would, occasionally get to see him when he had his movie channel show and loved it. There was this guy showing this kind of movies that were really disreputable, but were really fun. And he was into it as much as the audience was. And I would pick up his books. He had several books of reviews. He started off as a movie reviewer, sort of as a joke, reviewing drive-in movies. But if you see any interviews with him, he legitimately likes this stuff like we do. He's a very smart guy. The Joe Bob thing is a character, but he's into it like all of us are. So yeah, so many things I can't believe I ever would be able to do, and being able to be on a conference call with Joe Bob was one of them not too long ago.
Now, I was just going to say, it's just that down-to-earth aspect. He's real with us. We're real with him. We're going to present him to our public, and the people are going to have a fantastic time, and they're going to see what a real person he is and how much he's into it.
Beautifully said. And that's the thing with Joe Bob that I think people are really going to take away from this event, is as much action as there is going on, this is a guest that literally will be hanging out and lingering and all that stuff. he's going to watch every single movie with us. It's not going to be a situation where he's kind of hidden off and you can't get access to him. This is his baby, and he came to us wanting to make this puppy happen. As much as we, lobbied to try to make this happen year after year, this was the year to make it happen.
What we talked about before was simply just having him come out as a guest to do a signing. Nothing like basically recreating what he's done on TV for years live on the big screen on 35 millimeter film.
No, it started small, and Virgil got into it with him, and now it's grown into this big, huge thing that's going to come back probably every year.
And that's really what we wanted to do, was develop an event that is the ultimate meetup for the last drive-in mutants and Joe Bob fans. So it was something for them to look forward to every single year and know that, okay, it's rolling around again. When can we expect to hit the Jamboree and meet up with all of our buds, So that's kind of Mahoning right there in a nutshell on any given weekend. It just happens to be very geared toward a specific fan base in this scenario. But talk about an amazing fan base, and one that is incredibly loyal. Mark knows it. We've been fielding email after email of people who are like, I cannot miss these tickets. But I can say it just in as much confidence as Mark and Jeff can. It's going to be made very clear when these tickets are going to be available, so everybody knows when they're coming, and you'll certainly have a shot at it.
Yeah, this is guaranteed to sell out. We sold out more shows than not last year, partly because of our sparkling personality, but mostly because people had nothing else to do, nothing else they could do. And it was really, really good programming. But this is the one show this year that I guarantee is going to sell out fast.
It will. And if by chance you don't make it this year or can't get tickets, there's going to be next year, the year after, good Lord willing. So don't worry, you're going to get in eventually.
And we'll have more details as they develop.
Jim Rex? What's Jim Rex? Would you believe a movie audience guide presented as a public service by this theater's management to help you select your motion picture entertainment? Well, that's what it is. And we urge you to learn these rating symbols and use them as a guide for you and your family. G means suggested for general audiences, all ages. M, suggested for mature audiences, parental discretion advised. R, restricted, persons under 16 not admitted unless accompanied by parent or adult guardian. X, persons under 16 will not be admitted. This seal in advertising indicates that the film was approved under the Motion Picture Code of Self-Regulation.
So that's really all we've announced so far. We'll keep doing episodes like this as we go, where we sort of take a look at the upcoming calendar and give some thoughts on it, give a little inside info. And we may do individual episodes about specific events if we have a guest or any good info about that. We'll do these little mini-sodes like that. So that's all we have for this week.
You definitely have a lot to look forward to as far as individual episodes. I think that's something the fans really would love. And especially the fact that we have connections to some of the filmmakers and the stars. I think that hopefully we're going to be making that happen in a big, bad way. But I can say, if you are loving this programming and you are wanting to get kind of the first reaction of it all, follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. We announce these events with no sort of pretense. We love to see people freak out every single week as we drop some incredible lineups. So hop on over and give us a follow.
Exactly. Enjoy the podcasts. Enjoy the drive-in. Get out to see us whenever you can. We will be more than happy to see you. We will be thrilled.
That's all for this week. So we will see you at the drive-in.
And on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.